What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the View from the Clipper podcast. It's episode 5 of season 2, joined as always by myself, your host, James Warner, and Josh Sexton. Josh, how's your week been?
It's been good. International break in the football has allowed me to delve a little bit more deeply into the NBA this week. So it's been nice. The Clippers haven't necessarily been winning all the games. Now we're going to go through and break them down game by game. But it's just nice. It just feels like it's a fun time to be a fan of NBA basketball in general. So yeah, I've been really enjoying the hoops that I've seen this week. And the Clippers have put in some good performances, even if the results aren't yet out there yet. How are you, James?
Yeah, good. I couldn't agree more, really. And I think it's evident that it's been a better week for the Clippers because I think last time, Josh, when we left you, you were nice and comfortable on your sofa and you were having to have a bit of a sit down. So we've managed to migrate you to your desk chair. So if that's an indication that the Clippers have had a slightly better week, albeit not, we're not there yet, but I think there are notable improvements that we can pick apart in the podcast. Um, I think we felt at the end of last week that this sort of road trip the Clippers were going on was going to maybe provide some entertainment or enjoyment. And I think the team have been noticeably getting a little bit better, and there's been obviously opportunities for young players to step up as well. So yeah, it's been a great week, and I think I agree with you. I've been able to sit down and actually watch some games live, which has been helpful. Like I managed to catch the Celtics game. So for anyone listening in the UK, obviously that was a UK friendly tip time of 8:30, which I always do look forward to. Those were the kind of tips that we sometimes have when we were in crypto, and not didn't have many fans over in the US, but those are the games that I sort of built my fandom on over the last few years. So always look forward to these Eastern trips, and yeah, we're fortunate enough to catch catch all of the game, and the Celtics, but also the Sixers as well, which is also like a midnight isn't early, right? But I was still awake, so I caught parts of the first half. So yeah, we watched a lot more Clippers basketball. Unfortunately enough, the performances have been better, and we started off by ending the 6 game losing streak that we were so pissed off and annoyed about last week, um, to the Mavs in an overtime game and another NBA Cup win. So we can touch on that as well. But yeah, Josh, I know you caught some of this game. What were your thoughts, sort of coming away from this, and the Clippers eventually breaking that streak and getting over the Mavs in overtime?
Yeah, it kind of comes with the caveat that Dallas are not a good team, are they? So I think like we listen, the Clippers are obviously not a good team either this season. So maybe we shouldn't be looking too much down on a team like Dallas because really they're not good for the same reasons the Clippers aren't good, which is a combination of health, the roster construction there now is not allowing that team to really excel to the best of their capabilities, but. As mid-offs go, to not coin the exact term that people keep going with for a lot of these sort of lowly NBA games this season. It was entertaining. It was an entertaining game. It was led by, great performances from James Harden and Ivica Zubac, which came to be the hallmark really of the Clippers last season. Like even though we had, relative health from Kawhi going into the playoffs and stuff last season, like you'll remember that the regular season was led a lot by how good James Harden and Ivica Zubac were really. So it felt like a bit of a throwback to that. It just did feel like a little bit of a throwback to last season, the best bits of that, and like James Harden just absolutely incredible doing it all out there on the floor. Like I always get a bit worried with these James games that like what's the ultimate toll of like just this. I mean, 50 minutes. I think he ends up playing over the course of the sort of double overtime stretch. So like what is the negative that comes with this? Yeah, 51 minutes and 3 seconds that he plays. Like, does it mean that he is just going to feel the load a bit more in the playoffs? Does it mean that even longer term, which maybe won't be a thing that we have to worry about as Clippers fans, given the way the Clippers salary cap is heading? But is it the sort of thing that could just impact the back end of his career to some extent, and the age in which he retires and stuff that he's donning his cape for these ones, to use Brian Seaman terms, and then Ivica Zubac just looking like the Zoo of old. And I have a bit of sympathy for Zoo. Like I've been a little bit critical of him on shows and episodes we've done this season, but like there's just such a mess around him that I think it's made it harder for him. And I think you see when the team does look a little bit more cohesive, and when the stars are being the stars, really, that he can still stand out. And I think he's obviously struggled with the John Collins adaptation this season, and this was a quiet John Collins game, really, considering some of the games that John Collins has had so far. But it's felt like whenever there's been a bigger John Collins game, it comes at the sort of detriment of Ivica Zubac. So, yeah, a much more sort of reassuring Ivica Zubac performance in general. Another great James Harden one in, I guess a week or two really now of great James Harden displays. As I say, like the thing that just like plays in the back of my mind is like 40-point triple double is absolutely fantastic, but like, does this mean that? I mean, listen, thinking a little bit far ahead to be assuming the Clippers will even reach the playoffs, but if the Clippers do reach the playoffs, does it mean we're just going to see another sort of dropper performance from James Harden because he's putting it in November in NBA Cup games?
Yeah, I think we touched on it before we went on air that Clippers could make a little bit of a cup run, which I think is a bit of a new concept for I think American sports in general. Like cup competitions are not really a thing, whereas obviously in football or European football, we value these kind of competitions a lot, and I hope this is something that can grow and can be a bit more respected. But I think the fact that it was in an NBA Cup game made it a little bit more iconic, and I hope that these games start to create more value for the league and the fans as well. I hope they really buy into it. Like I would love to, like if the Clippers aren't going to do anything this year, fine. But if they could win the NBA Cup, like that's pretty fun. And if they can get to Vegas, like that would be great as well. And they've got off to a great start there. I think is it now like two of their wins have now come from the NBA Cup. So I would love to see them progress and get some of that sort of playoff excitement early in the season, because it hasn't been a great start as we've spoken about many times on this podcast. And I think James Harden is the main reason why a lot of us are still excited to watch and excited to tune in. Like I think he's been the reason for that for the last few years. Obviously, like the young guys getting opportunities now is pretty fun as well. But just being able to watch James Harden play and how he's just dominating every single game. Like I don't think he's had a pretty poor performance so far in his opening games. And I hope that continues. I hope that the 50 or so minutes he had to play in this Mavericks game doesn't have to continue, because we definitely will see a regression in his performances. But yeah, he is, if not MVP level, like sort of sub MVP level. I think just because he's he's playing for the Clippers right now, he obviously won't be in any of those conversations. But the type of performances, the way he's impacting performances right now, if he had Kawhi Leonard with him, like who knows what people could be saying about him. Like there've been obviously quite a few close games where he's had an opportunity to either win the Clippers the game, or he has brought them back to like a tie game. So he's continuing to impact the Clippers in a multitude of ways, not just on the offensive end, but also in his playmaking, his ball handling. Obviously, his turnovers right now are like incredibly high, but I think that's just due to the complete usage that the Clippers are putting on him right now. He's averaging 26.2 points. He's got one of the highest offensive box plus minuses in the NBA of 6.1. He's just absolutely dominating that now. He's taking just under 10 3-pointers a game and making just under 40% of them. Like this is the James Harden that we need. He's being aggressive. He's getting to the line as well, and I think I've enjoyed that and sort of missed that with James. And we can touch on some of the other games where I think that's been pretty evident. But he's also averaging just under 8 free throw attempts a game, and I think that was the James Harden that we maybe didn't get in like the sort of the first part of his Clippers career, but are now seeing evidence of every single night. And I just really hope this dominance continues. I think I don't want to read too much into this particular win in particular, because as you mentioned, like it's a Dallas Mavericks that are in absolute turmoil right now, who have just fired Nico Harrison after making one of the craziest NBA trades in not just NBA history, but I think all of sports that has just spent that has sent Mavericks fans into into a spiral, understandably. So this isn't a good team right now. I don't think they had Anthony Davis that night, but I've still got players that can cause you issues. They've got the number one draft pick in Cooper Flag, so I think it was fun to at least see him play. I don't think he had like the most stellar performance, but even guys like Najee Marshall with 28 points, D'Angelo Russell with 28 points, like yeah, this isn't the best team, but I think like you mentioned, like just it being an NBA Cup game, being an overtime win, and Harden going off for 40 plus is fun. And look, we'll just take a win. And I think this is out of the three, the one that I was expecting us definitely to win. Obviously, the other two are stronger, let's say, Eastern teams. So um, yeah, we'll take it and we'll move on. So yeah, any final thoughts on this game, Josh, before we can swiftly move over to that early tip against Boston?
No, not too many from me, to be honest. Like I don't want to stick the boot in on the Dallas Mavericks, but it sort of made me realize like how bad a team that is there, and not in the sense of like there's talented guys across that roster really, but like it just again like I am so like angry really, probably as angry as like a Dallas Mavericks fan is about Nico Harrison trading Luka Doncic away to the Lakers of all teams. For us as Clippers fans, especially for absolute peanuts. Like Luka was so good against the Clippers in so many games, playoff games, regular season games, and the Clippers more often than not got the better of the Dallas Mavericks, but it was still a very good Dallas Mavericks team with Luka Doncic, and especially with so many of these guys here that were Clipper killers in that playoff series when Luka did come out on top, albeit Kawhi wasn't healthy and things like that. But like to see how far away they've fallen because of that Luka trade, like to see guys who were good in that Dallas series just be so bad in this game. Yeah, it was just strange, and the Cooper Flag thing is not necessarily working for Dallas right now. I don't think Jason Kidd has given him the right tools to succeed for Dallas right now. So I think you saw more of that, and that's why really they're in. Obviously the roster construction is the biggest thing with Dallas. Like Nico Harrison has constructed a terrible roster there. And one that, again, you can argue health, but like if you trade Luka Doncic, who is relentlessly healthy, for a guy in Anthony Davis who is never healthy, like don't be surprised when health becomes an issue. Obviously, the Kyrie Irving thing is a bit more of a freak, and I do have some sympathy with that. But I don't think even Kyrie Irving would have necessarily saved them in this game. He probably scores more from three than D'Angelo Russell does, but he'd have just took D'Angelo Russell's touches and probably put up as many points. So yeah, a really strange game of basketball, but one that I am, as you say, pleased that the Clippers came out on top, because if they didn't, then I just don't know what I'd have done.
I think I heard someone say this recently, but like adding Luka Doncic to this Mavericks team is kind of scary. Like that's sort of the roster construction that they should have really gone for. Like you can imagine Luka Doncic with Anthony Davis would be insane. And I think even sort of the other way around, like for the Lakers, people have been suggesting go and get Anthony Davis back, because sort of pairing those two together would be unbelievable. And I think on paper, like they've got sort of the bones of what could be a good team, but they are just missing that like star player who was Luka, and in this case, obviously they swapped him for Anthony Davis, whose health concerns are real, and obviously has missed a fair amount of games so far. I know they're hoping Cooper Flag can be that guy, but obviously he clearly is not that yet. And yeah, it's a shame for the Mavs, but it's one that we had to win. I think on the defensive side, this was a bit of a close your eyes kind of game, because it was not fun at all. I mean, giving up 127, albeit through two overtimes, fair enough. But D'Angelo Russell, as I mentioned, scoring 28, that should not be happening in 2025. So we can move on from this one. We can talk about the game that I think. Did you manage to watch this, Josh? I know obviously I managed to sit down and watch it, but it was a close loss to the Boston Celtics, 121, 118. Were you able to make the time for this one, Josh, to watch it live?
You know what, annoyingly, because you mentioned about like how rare it is now, especially into it for us as Clippers fans in the UK to get early tips. I didn't manage to make this early tip, so I have watched the game back, but yeah, it was the next morning in the sort of same routine that I usually do, which
Mhm.
considering all the reaction had already happened by the time I'd like gone to bed and the game was already over on the Sunday night, it was a shame, really.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. We've got more opportunities on this road trip for you to watch a live one, but I did manage to sit down and watch this game. I thought the Clippers were broadly okay. I think a lot of fans underestimated how good the Celtics still are, and I think a lot of fans in general, like I think they've been generally underperforming based on their record. Their like underlying stats suggest that they are still a top 10 team in the NBA. Like I think they were going into the game against the Clippers, they were top 10 defense and sort of around the 11th mark for offense. Like this is still the bones of a very good NBA team. It's essentially just missing Jason Tatum. And obviously, there's been a fair bit of change there as well. They've lost some of their veteran guys. They sort of gave up to go with sort of a younger look team, but they still look like the same sort of Boston Celtics. They take an abnormal amount of 3 pointers. And I think in this game, the Clippers were on the wrong side of that, where, yeah, they were just making a lot. And I think the Clippers really, that was not a marriage that went well, particularly with how their perimeter defense has been this year. I guess guys like Peyton Pritchard scoring eight threes. Like I'm a big fan of Peyton Pritchard. I think he's a great player, but like, come on, that's a bit over the top. And yeah, I just think it was a game that eventually just ran away from the Clippers. But again, a James Harden masterclass, if you can say that. I thought he was great again in this game. 37 points, five threes, and down the stretch as well. He had an opportunity to essentially get a final shot away that just sort of hit the rim and was unable to fall down. So that was unfortunate. But the fact that the Clippers even had a sniff of a chance to win this game without Kawhi Leonard, with the way that they've been playing recently, I think is testament to maybe a slight change in the way the team's playing. And I think they were a lot more competitive in this game. And I think, if you bring Kawhi Leonard back into this team, maybe this could have been a game they could have won against, like I've mentioned, a team that I still think are a good Eastern team, a team that will certainly be in the playoffs. I think they'll sort of find fortune throughout the season. Like, big fan of Joe Mazzulla. I still think he's one of the better NBA coaches in the league. So yeah, overall, to have even a chance with James taking a 3 pointer, which arguably, like, he could have made those. I think maybe he was running a bit too hot, and that just getting one more wasn't possible, unfortunately. One of the obviously big things that also happened in this game was Derek Jones Jr. going down, and that was pretty rough to witness live. I think my first impressions was that he sort of hit the hardwood on his knee a bit too hard, but after sort of a few replays, you could see that there was like clearly, I think, some contact with Jaylen Brown, if I'm memorizing that correctly, where he looked like he kind of twisted his knee, and I think immediately felt like MCL, hopefully sprain and not a tear. It's now been confirmed that he has a MCL sprain and will be reevaluated in 6 weeks' time, which I think many have taken as good news. I think that's probably the better news that we could have asked for. Any kind of tears, you're thinking about another season-ending injury to a player who, again, like similar to James, I think has started the season really well, has been really, really efficient on both sides of the ball. Like we already know, Derek Jones Jr. is absolute menace defensively, but offensively he's been there when the Clippers have needed him. He's been reliable from three. Has been a lob threat, and I've really enjoyed him. I really enjoyed him last year, and I think I'm enjoying him even more this year. So it was really unfortunate to see him go down the way he did, but yeah, I'm just hoping that the timeline isn't too long for him to get that return. What did you think of Derek Jones Jr. going down, Josh?
Yeah, a heartbreaker in, a pretty heartbreaking season all round for Clippers fans, really. Like, there's been so much disappointment already this season, and more, like, I guess, disappointment that comes from a place of anger rather than like sadness. Like anger with the way this roster was constructed, anger with, and I guess like just a loss of patience really with Kawhi Leonard and his injury situation, and like feeling like you're going through the same cycle with Kawhi season after season. But then, as you say, for a guy who's been like really one of the bright sparks for the Clippers this season, and Derek Jones Jr. to suffer such a like just a tough injury, like you say, one that was just like horrible to watch happen. Yeah, that was a real heartbreaker because he had given the Clippers like a bit of like a lift this season in terms of like coming into that starting five. You've mentioned all like the key attributes that he brings in terms of like how his three balls improved for the most part this season. I know it's still not like completely consistent, and there's still not a world in which necessarily him and Chris Dunn can be on the same court and the Clippers can win meaningful games of basketball. But the three ball had improved. It looked more like the 3-and-D defender that maybe we thought we were getting when he came in. 3-and-D player, I should say. He looked like the lob threat that he has been he was for so much of last season. He looked like that still this season. There was still that sort of energy and that lift there. And I guess the good news is, even though it sounds like it's still quite a bad injury, I think they've said a minimum of 6 weeks. It's going to keep him out for, isn't it? Like they're going to reassess in 6 weeks anyway.
Mhm.
It's like not as bad as first feared, because I guess as bad as first feared could be like the sort of injury that means that suddenly doesn't have that kind of bounce and he can't just get up and things like that. So, yeah, like I guess I'm pleased in terms of like the silver lining of that dark cloud is that it's not like a completely serious injury and that we will see him again this season. But disappointed from the point of view of like a guy who was having a better season, and one where like as me and you said on last week's episode, like the future of the Clippers now is kind of like who can play for their future on the Clippers. Really, it's we
Yeah.
know exactly what's going to happen next with James Harden and Kawhi in terms of like they're going to be off the books come 2027. Unless one of them decides to take like a really team friendly extension just to retire, which like maybe I could see James doing, but I'd be very surprised if Kawhi took that at this stage, especially with all the aspiration stuff still hanging over him. But for a
Yeah.
guy like Derek Jones Jr., who does fall more into the age profile of like, okay, you can be part of like the next era of whatever the Clippers are. Yeah, really disappointing for him. And I guess in terms of like the game in general, like I'd probably give the Boston Celtics a little bit more like credit than you did, just in terms of like I think that some of those roster moves were made in the summer because like they knew the severity of Jason Tatum's injury. So like getting off Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis when they had like real luxury tax like issues and second apron issues and stuff last season. And I say issues, more like they had just a very expensive roster.
Yeah.
They had to like something had to give, and I think Jason Tatum's injury just allowed them a chance to like have that little bit of a reset, kind of do what like we're all hoping the Clippers do now, like which is what you said, to be fair, which is like
Mhm.
play a load of young guys and stuff. And like they still don't look like a very good basketball team. They're better than the Clippers on the whole, I'd say, and maybe on like the evidence of this game that shows, because I think Jaylen Brown is probably better than anything the Clippers have really, and that's even acknowledging how
Yeah.
good James Harden's been over the last few weeks, especially. In terms of like second guys, maybe Zoo has been better than Derek White this season, although like considering how good they both were for the last 2 seasons, but especially I guess Derek White in the championship season and Zoo last season, like they're probably on a par with each other. I would say like both really
Mhm.
talented basketball players, and then below that it's like there's a big drop off, and obviously the Celtics have got younger now. The Clippers were still sort of waiting to get a lot younger because they're still giving some of those like older guys the chance to prove themselves, albeit Chris Paul is like completely out the rotation now, it seems, besides a couple of minutes against Philly that we're going to come on to talk about, obviously. So yeah, like a really interesting game to analyze again, because like I feel like what's been interesting about this 3 game run, sort of like zooming out on it, is we've sort of mentioned the parallels with the Dallas Mavericks. There's some parallels with the Celtics, albeit again, like you just feel like they're in a better scenario because the minute Jason Tatum comes back, they've got young pieces that they'll have played a lot this season that can then trade and do that whole sort of retooling thing to go back to being a championship contender. Whereas like the Clippers have obviously had their own health issues, but like that retooling is still yet to really happen. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see what the direction of these two franchises are. It felt a bit like, when I said about like what's the toll of James Harden putting in all this effort and like having 40-point triple doubles and 50-minute double overtime games. Well, the toll is probably that he doesn't really have the lift in his legs to hit game winners like that. That's what it felt like in that moment. It felt like he sort of pushed the
Yeah.
shot away and his legs didn't really go with him, and it like hits the back iron quite sort of like an angle that James doesn't usually shoot at. So yeah, like you say, got a shot, sorry, that he could have easily scored on any other day, but probably not off the back of his most heroic performance so far this season.
Yeah, there's only so much carrying that he can do, right? And
Exactly.
he did a whole lot of carrying in this game, particularly I think in the fourth quarter. For like the Celtics would take a bit of a lead, and James would like straight up bring the Clippers back. Like there wasn't much else from anyone down that stretch that could have been an alternative option to James. It's like he felt in this game like, give me the ball, I'm gonna like win us this game. And it was like that from minute one. Like he was just cruising to the rim at times. And I think kind of mentioned it there, like obviously the Celtics have gone through this retooling, and they obviously aren't the team they were with Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Like the defensive prowess of those players alone, like missing that from the team, is going to allow guys like James Harden to go off for 37 on nights like this. Like there were, yeah, I can even just remember possessions where it literally felt like he would walk to the rim sort of uncontested. Like it
Yeah.
felt that easy. I don't know if that was just down to him and how he was playing, or just the Celtics not being that switched on defensively in this game. But I think, yeah, like you said, Jaylen Brown was probably the biggest factor in this game. It feels like he's sort of mastered that mid-range game now, like one of the most efficient players to score 2-pointers in the league. Like he doesn't even need to shoot the three ball really or make, because he's going to take like 10 plus mid-ranges and make the majority of them. And that felt like that was, that's the kind of matchup that you'd have Kawhi on. So maybe like that could have been a factor in having Kawhi back in this game. Is like you'd have that sort of one-on-one guard play with Jaylen Brown and Kawhi, and see who got the better out of each other, and could have potentially slowed him down a little. But yeah, ultimately he had the highest net rating for the Celtics in this game, 22, and I think was just was as dominant as James. But obviously I think Jaylen Brown obviously offers a bit more on the defensive end, because you can kind of guard all different positions. And maybe the Celtics just allowed James to get hot because they knew there wasn't much threat outside of him. Or, I think John Collins and Zoo had decent scoring nights. But I did want to touch on two guards that I thought had good games. So Bogey, who I think has sort of turned it around since the start of the season, where he'd sort of been in and out of the lineups. He'd had an injury, but I think now he's come back and is starting to play a little bit better. Like I don't think this was like his best game, but he led the Clippers in terms of the plus minus of the box score. Again, don't always want to look into that, but I felt like he was good. Like he was efficient when he had the ball. He was, yeah, just generally okay. And I think he's had better games, but like I think he was one of like the other standout players in this game. But I did want to touch on Kobe Sanders, because I think this was probably the night for Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders, but Jordan Miller had to exit the game due to a hamstring injury, and I hope that's all okay, because he's recently coming off obviously like a 22 pointer that we had someone saying, could Jordan Miller average 15 this season? So I want to see more from him, but it's given a broader opportunity to Kobe Sanders, and I thought he was excellent in this game. I think this is obviously his lowest scoring out of the two, and we'll touch on the Sixers game from the other night. But he scored 11 points, 2 3-pointers, and was second in that sort of ranking of plus minus in this game in particular. I think like I was quite surprised to see him be so aggressive on the defensive end. I think he's really buying into that. I think we'd noticed that when he got a few minutes in sort of the previous run of games, that he is trying to focus on the defensive end. I think he commented in one of the pressers earlier in the season, like he didn't really want to focus on his performance. It was just like getting better on the defensive end. I think he's really buying into that with Jeff Van Gundy, which is great to see, because he can clearly shoot the ball. Like he's taken a few threes since coming into the lineup. Like I was looking at stats earlier, and I think per 36 minutes, obviously given he's only just starting to build up those minutes, like per 36, he's third for the Clippers in 3-point attempts. So he just needs to keep shooting it, and he's he might come into a bit of a stretch of maybe missing a few threes, but he just needs to keep shooting it. And he's showing that willingness. He's showing that willingness to move off the ball, to put himself in positions where he can be effective, sort of off of James or off of any of the other ball handlers in the team, whether it's Chris Paul or Bogey. So I've been really, really impressed with him. Obviously, as I said, we're more impressed with him in the Sixers game, which we'll touch on in a second. But what were your thoughts on Kobe in this game? Because I think it was probably the first time like we've seen a lot of him since maybe some like the summer league games, and I think some of the earlier games this season.
Yeah, I want to touch on Bogey first, because you sort of started with that point
Mm.
that it felt like a all action Bogdanovich performance, which like I guess when you a player who has been like as bad for as long as he has with the Clippers, really like I'm going back to like literally when the trade was made, like Bogey has maybe had like 1 or 2 games where he's looked like the Bogdanovich that we maybe thought that we were getting in that trade. And otherwise, like the thing that has probably upset me the most with him is like those nights where he really hasn't looked like Bogdanovich. He like just doesn't look like he's like I don't know. He looks like he like switches off a little bit. Like I hate to question like players' mentalities or anything like that, but like it's like he doesn't really want to do the work. He's like, I'm just having an off night, so like I'll just be like completely unplayable, and it's like it's just not really the way it can work. Like there's no hiding places on a basketball court. So like this was one of those games where like even though the shots weren't necessarily falling for him, still like 1 of 5 from three, like he just worked really hard and it was all action and he filled the stat sheet. And like plus minus is never like a perfect measure really of how much of an impact a player has on a basketball game, but like the plus minus for this one kind of matched the eye test, and it felt like Bogey was doing a lot on the court. And then yeah, Kobe Sanders, like it's funny really, like you mentioned the defensive improvements that like he earmarked that he wanted to make, and I remember Jordan Miller making similar comments in the past too, and I think it's probably why Cam Christie has ended up like in quite a short space of time playing himself out of rotational minutes really, is that the defensive side of your game in the NBA is like the thing that you live and die by. Like if you're a good basketball player on the offensive side of the ball, then like that's all well and good. I know there's been this big argument recently because Kevin Durant came out and was like, "Who cares about defense? Like people only pay to watch offense and stuff." But like, good
Mm-hmm.
offense will get you like the G League at best if you're not a good defender. I think it's like and Clippers fans may not like this because I know they like these players were popular with Clippers fans and stuff. But like, I think it's why Moussa Diabate was never really fancied on the Clippers was because defense wasn't good enough. I think it's why Brandon Boston Jr. was never really fancied on the Clippers because his defense
Yeah.
was horrible, to be honest. Like these are guys who are good offensively, can go to other teams, get more touches, and then because their offensive game is improving and they're getting more touches and they're just seeing genuine NBA minutes, their defensive game can improve from there. And I understand that it's like hard for guys to improve their defense in the G League and hard for them to improve their defense in garbage time because like who is playing any meaningful basketball in garbage time? But um, to hear guys like Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders like honing on that has been really refreshing. And I think you've seen it from Kobe. Like he plays with this intensity that like in the past 2 games especially, but like as you say, we'll come on to mention in the Sixers game, like his intensity was really really good, and it wasn't just off offensive intensity. Like again, I don't want to just like sort of scapegoat Diabate and Brandon Boston Jr. in particular, but it feels like the two that Clippers fans like always look to and be like, oh, like they could have been the ones for us. Like their intensity came on the offensive end and never really came on the defensive end. And I think with Kobe Sanders, what you saw was like he was willing to balance how much he did going forward as what he was doing going the other way as well, and that is refreshing. So I can see him sticking around in the rotation. Like he's probably replaced uh, Cam Christie in terms of who I thought would take those minutes, who I thought was going to be the sort of guard that the Clippers needed to be in terms like that shooting and bringing a bit of shot creation and things like that. Um, yeah, so like I was really impressed to see him and like the performance he put in this game. And then, obviously the game that we'll move on to now, the Sixers game, was another step up even from that.
Yeah, and we can touch on that now because yeah, I think it's a good segue, given this was sort of the best Kobe Sanders performance of his Clippers career so far, which is obviously has been so limited given he is like still a rookie, and just crazy to think that he's our second round pick. Like we haven't even seen much of Yannick this season. Like it's Kobe that's actually getting heavy minutes now. That obviously we've lost a fair few players to injury. So the Clippers obviously dropped this game 108-110 to the Sixers in Philly, but it was the first start for Kobe Sanders, and I think it was very much deserved. And I think he slotted into this lineup quite nicely alongside James Harden and Chris Dunn, because I think like you touched on there, like it's not just the defensive side of the ball that he seems to be like getting now. It's like defensive side and the willingness to shoot and move off the ball and be open and yeah, just space the floor. Like I think that's part of his game I've been most impressed with. And for him to get the start like so early into his Clippers career is just crazy. And I think there was a point that was raised that I saw. I think it was Justin Russo posted this one around. It was the first start for a Clippers rookie since 2019, which I'm guessing is Terrence Mann. So that just goes to show like not only like how impressive it is for Kobe Sanders to be starting games for the Clippers already, but just how bad the Clippers have been at drafting guys who are like ready to instantly contribute the minute they join the team. Like I don't know actually. I've not got this stat, but I don't think like guys like Cam Christie have got starts yet. So the fact that he's starting over under these conditions, like he's already ahead of Cam Christie. I know that he is like his senior in terms of his age, but in terms of like his NBA experience, like it's so limited right now. And I think it's testament to how he's been playing. I was listening to the Clip and Dip pod earlier, so shout out to them. But they were doing a sort of a comparison that I felt was quite a good one, in that he reminds them of TJ McConnell and just like the tenacity that he plays with. And I can certainly see it, the way that he goes about his defensive work, but also his offensive tenacity as well, and also just like going and getting rebounds. Like I think getting second chance points, like that has also been part of his game that I've really enjoyed. It just seems like a guy who could sort of do it all, which I think the Clippers have needed recently. I think we used to have that in Nico Batum, but obviously he hasn't been performing the exact same as he has over previous years. And he's a tall guy as well, 6'7", a guy who can handle the ball and play make as well, in addition to shooting the three ball. Obviously, I'm wary that 3 point performance that he's been putting in this season is slightly out of character compared to maybe his draft profile suggested. I think he was shooting around like 33% in college. But again, he could have just been working real hard on that as part of the off season. And players do make jumps when they come to the NBA. So I'm hoping that he keeps that up. I think I touched on earlier, like his per 36 right now is he's third for volume of 3 point attempts. So I want to see him keep that up and just keep shooting the ball, keep making himself available, because as we know, sort of outside of James, like there hasn't been a lot of guys like that have been that consistent from three, and I think the Clippers have been missing that. So yeah, not surprised to see him start, and that start led to him getting 17 points as well, which even better. And I thought he was a real handful in this game, offensively and defensively as well. So yeah, he was one of the big pluses for me in this game. James as well wasn't obviously like as strong as the previous nights, but still like a quiet 28, which was fine. And obviously again is one that kept the Clippers close in a game against the 76ers, who are doing pretty well at the moment, considering they've broadly obviously been without Paul George. I think they've looked good, particularly on the defensive end. So I think this was a good one to lose in that way. And just on Paul George, we touched on last week that it would definitely be Paul George's first game back against the Clippers. It was, I think, fortunately enough for us, like he only played 20 minutes and only scored 9 points. So his impact wasn't really that heavy on this game. This was a game that was ultimately won by Tyrese Maxey, who's having a superb start to the season. again. So yeah, I think he's really coming into his own. And ultimately, I think again it was just a close one that I think ties into this narrative that the Clippers are starting to play a little better now. And I think with Kawhi coming back, hopefully at some point in this road trip, like I think the Clippers will be fine. Like I'm happy to drop games like this where it's 2 points. There's effort there. There's clearly improvement, and this Ty is clearly looking for answers, and I think he's found it with Kobe Sanders. So, what were your thoughts on this game, Josh? And obviously Kobe Sanders, obviously that performance as well, which was obviously really really impressive.
Yeah, I don't know about you, James, but in that moment when Paul George got the block, and then went up the other end and hit his 3-pointer, I was like, oh, for God's sake! Like
Here we go again.
this is gonna
Yeah,
be this is gonna be a revenge game because it feels like the Clippers are always on the wrong end of revenge games, and of course like on the wrong end of the result in this, but like another close one, which I think like showed a lot of like fight and spirit, and I think that's probably like all since we've reset expectations. And obviously that last podcast me and you did was like a big example of that, really, like how much you
mm-hmm.
can reset expectations when you start the season has been as disastrous as it is for the Clippers, and how like the Clippers don't own their first round pick and stuff this season, so you can't just go and tank. Like the kind of things that you want to see to get a foundation again for the season is that the Clippers start to show fight and heart. And over this Celtics game and over the Sixers game, even though they lost both of them, like to keep them both close till the end really was testament to that heart and fight that was shown. And that was led by guys like Kobe Sanders, really, who we already mentioned that being able to do it on both ends in the Celtics game. And like it sort of dawned on me, like as he came into the starting five in this one, actually like if you're going to lose Derek Jones Jr., who has been more of like a 3-and-D guy for you that you thought you were going to get when we originally traded for him, then like Kobe Sanders is showing so far that like he can be that as well. Like 3 for 7 and 3 and 7, three. What am I trying to say? 3 from 7 in this one, from three, 17 points, and like as you say, like being like all action on the defensive end as well. So that's all you can ask for, really. Like we'll obviously gonna have young players to come back from injury in terms of like Jordan Miller and stuff, and I'll be interested to see the way minutes sort of fall when Jordan Miller is back, like whether Jordan Miller will go into the starting five or whether Kobe Sanders has like truly earned this honor now because of how much you've seen the defensive end of his game kick on. But like it's been really refreshing. It was so nice to see a young guy in the starting five. It was the thing that we were clamoring for on that last podcast. So yeah, good things from Kobe, some disappointing things from some other players, like another Chris Dunn performance where like the playmaking was okay. The defensive side of the ball, you kind of always know what you're gonna get. But then like just another reason why like Chris Dunn is kind of unplayable on in any game of basketball that like means something. A disappointing Ivica Zubac game. And as I say, like it feels like at times this season it's been interchanged. Like John Collins has a good game, Ivica Zubac doesn't. Ivica Zubac has a good game, John Collins doesn't. This was like one where both Zubac and Collins were just both like not great on the whole, really. Like weren't contributing too much to the Clippers being able to like pull anything out of this one. So wasn't a great surprise, really, that like that the Clippers needed basically their backup big, which was not Brook Lopez in this case, but Nicholas Batum, finally coming to the party for at least one game this season. Felt like he just wanted his revenge game against Philly because he seems to just love playing against Philly. To come out and hit three of seven threes, similar to Kobe Sanders, and get 6 rebounds as well. Yeah, like a better performance from Nicholas Batum than that we've seen, and I guess just better all around from the Clippers, really, despite there being still some disappointing things that you can take away from it. But as you say, like I think you kind of alluded to, like this is a Sixers team that like had it rolling at the start of the season with all these young guys, so kind of not entirely surprised that like it was led by a near 40-point performance from Tyrese Maxey, because Tyrese Maxey has become like the vet of this Sixers team, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
they've seen in terms of
Yeah,
Joel Embiid and Paul George coming back. Like it's a team that feels like it's built around those young guys now, like a VJ Edgecombe and stuff, and to be led by a vet, which again sounds ridiculous to say vet in reference to Tyrese Maxey, but to be led by a vet like that, and for him to put in the performances that he does so consistently for the Sixers, it feels like they've got a bright future, even if there's a few big contracts sort of standing in the way of that for them at the moment.
Yeah, and again, it's in like another decent Eastern team that the Clippers have played that are top 10 in offense, and holding them to around 110 points is like not bad going. Again, given they're missing Kawhi Leonard, feel like that's just going to be like the caveat to every game. I know like the Sixers were missing Paul George, but I think we all know that at a point, like I'd rather have Kawhi Leonard on my team than Paul George. Obviously, they've both got their injury concerns, but um, yeah, to keep this one close, I thought was great. And again, it's the second night of a back to back for um, an aging team, which now maybe isn't as old as previous. You've got guys like Kobe Sanders getting minutes, Cam Christie as well. Like I feel like we need to check in with that NBAage.com again and see how that's going to change, because the Clippers are going to be becoming a lot younger, and I don't know if there's going to become a point where is Brook Lopez going to be playable in 10 games time? Because although like he's had some like good stints off the bench and can shoot the three ball, like I've not been that impressed with him, like particularly defensively. Like I'm interested to see if maybe Yannick can get some minutes as well. And again, that'd be a big age coming off the Clippers rotation. So yeah, and just on your Batum point as well, because I think he's one who got off to who started the season quite slow, and I think we've always been sort of looking to him to be the guy who can sort of like pull us out of jail in occasions with his 3-point making. And I feel like over this game and like the past couple where the Clippers have had close games slash wins, like it's been a good Batum performance. So him being able to like provide 20 minutes and like you say, threes as well, and just be that like defensive presence has been great. So that needs to continue. John Collins, yeah, more. We need to see more of John Collins in this starting lineup. I think obviously a lot of fans have been calling for it, and he had 11 points, but I think it's like a quiet 11 points. Like he didn't really like jump out at me in this game. And again, I think hopefully he's just still finding his way with like the rotations, and obviously like things are changing. Like obviously we have lost Bradley Beal, we've lost Derek Jones Jr., we've got Kobe Sanders coming in, you've got minutes from Cam Christie. Like I don't know, maybe he's still trying to find his way, but we do need to see more from him if the Clippers want to get more consistent and have playoff aspirations. But again, I'm going to come back to the same point: is that this team is only going to be as good as Kawhi Leonard's availability. So I'm just hoping that ultimately he comes back soon, because I think with him, like it's becoming evident like this can be a playoff, or at worst maybe like a play-in team. But like without him, again, the Clippers are 4-10 right now, and all while like losing close games like this is a good indicator of the team turning it around. Like we're going to need to win some games soon, and we can't keep winning or losing close games. Like we need to start beating teams. So Kawhi is going to be big in that. I'm trying to remember if there was any reporting on the latest recently, but I think maybe it was last week that Shams said the Clippers are not worried about the ankle and that he's due to come back soon. And who knows what soon means in
He
Clippers
was
language.
he was running up the stairs at TD Garden, wasn't he? Which seemed to be like the
Yeah,
latest thing. So I mean,
yeah,
yeah, like even just the words you were saying then about like the Clippers are not expecting this, and I was just like, oh God, no, let me out.
no. PTSD. Yeah. Yeah. Even with like the Derek Jones Jr. stuff, like we can sort of celebrate that, it's just the MCL sprain, and like he can be reevaluated soon. Like, oh, it sounds good. Like you can't read into anything. Like that could well and be like that could be a season ending injury that's on the face of it. Like the team are just sort of underreporting. So that's just the Clippers for you. Like the injury stuff is just never fun. But I did want to like have a little bit of a look forward, unless you had any more to say about that Sixers game, Josh.
No, all good.
Cool. So I think that the next time we'll speak, and I'm hoping we'll get to do this again next Wednesday. Like we've been very consistent with this, and I want to keep the ball rolling. Um, there's quite a few games coming up. So we've got a matchup against the Orlando Magic on Friday, which is a midnight tip over here in the UK. Orlando Magic, who've probably not got off to the best start this season. And I think were a lot better last year. So that will be an interesting game to see, and it's probably, I'd say, the weaker out of the Celtics and the Sixers. So hopefully it's a close one, and is it one Kawhi is going to come back for? Not sure. It is, and I'm trying to see now, and I think I've just been tricked because I think the Clippers are actually playing tomorrow. It's midnight Friday, so it's a Thursday night tip, or am I getting absolutely too
No,
confused
yeah,
there?
you've yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the Clippers play tomorrow, recording on a Wednesday. They're playing Thursday. It's not a back to back. They're playing the Hornets in Charlotte on Saturday, which is a 6 o'clock UK tip, and we'll try our best to be watching that if we can. Although, yeah, try and avoid weekend plans with the Clippers on is a struggle, I think, as you've mentioned, Josh. So I'll try myself available to watch that one. You got to try and watch them whilst they're available, and then the Clippers go to the Cavs on Sunday, and I think we wanted to give a little bit of an announcement on this. And I think Josh and I are going to try and stream this over on Playback TV. I know you've streamed over on Playback a couple of times, Josh. So good to get your view on it really, and what's going to go down.
Yeah, so I've actually done this with Detroit Pistons fans. I think it was Locked On Pistons, the podcast that I did it with before. Cool guys over there like watched the Pistons Clippers game from a couple of seasons ago. I think the Clippers ended up winning in overtime, if I remember rightly. It was like just another one of those classic like Clippers Pistons games where it's like very very back and forth. And so like the idea behind it is for those who are listening and don't know is that basically through Playback TV you can have the rights to stream the games, like you can add your League Pass subscription into it and all those kinds of things. And then we'll just sit and watch along the game with you. Like me and James will give our thoughts on it live, kind of like a running commentary, but we're not here trying to replace Jim Jackson and Brian Seaman by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're looking for
Impossible.
some, yeah, so if you're looking for some UK voices to guide you through this one, we've kind of been a little bit done by the schedule in terms of like our own schedules of when we could do. I'm actually at a wedding on the Saturday, so I won't be able to watch that Hornets Clippers game, which is a shame. But back on the Sunday. So me and James will get in the hot seat for that Cavs game and hope that it's not an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah, because I was going to just come in there and say the Cavs are looking good to start the year, 10-5. They just tend to dominate the regular season and then go missing in the playoffs. But that's going to be a tough one for the Clippers. So I'm wondering if that's going to be one for Kawhi, because I don't know if he was just kept with the team just to like being in and around it and like just like keep that familiarity, or if the Clippers like had a game in mind. But I'm interested to see, does he play Orlando? Is that too soon? Or, is he maybe thinking about Charlotte? Because the game that I haven't touched on that we're going to have before we speak again, Josh, is I think it's the first LA derby of the season. And this one's going to see the Clippers back in LA, back in crypto.com arena after the second season of obviously being out of that place. So that's going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm probably tempted to say that that's a game, like if Kawhi is getting real close, like that's a game they're obviously going to target because it just means so much more to the franchise, but also like more importantly the fans as well. So I'm excited for that. I want to, just before we do jump off, Josh, like give me your thoughts on these next four games. Like, how do you think the Clippers are going to get on, and do you think Kawhi is going to come back at all?
I'd like to think that they are targeting that Lakers game as the one that Kawhi can get back for. Like, I understand that he travelled on this road trip. I kind of wonder whether that was like you were saying, just to kind of keep him like around the team rather than any sort of realistic prospects of him coming back. But I might be proved wrong in that. I expect the Clippers to lose to the Magic because I think the Magic are the kind of team that like feel like they just bludgeon teams this season. Like, it's so much inside scoring, and when I say inside scoring, don't just mean inside the paint. Like, I mean 2 pointers as
Yeah.
well. So good defensively. It feels like they're a team that like can be really awkward for the Clippers, especially with like the size and length that they've got as well. The Hornets, like I would expect the Clippers win. I guess it kind of depends which version of the Clippers you're going to get. I'd like to think that it's because it's the first night of a back to back with that Cavs game, that maybe James, it's the sort of game that he'll be looking at and being like, I'm just going to go off in this one, and like whatever happens in Cleveland tomorrow happens. I expect that they'll get probably blown out in that Cavs game, which will be a shame. But maybe we can do our best Brian Seaman and Jim Jackson impressions in that, James, and then and we can just
Yeah,
talk about basically everything but the basketball and have a nice time in doing so. And
agreed.
then, as I say, I really hope Kawhi is back for that Lakers game because I'd love that to be one the Clippers can win. Like the funny thing is about the NBA Cup being the way it is that the Clippers kind of have like an outside chance of doing something in the NBA Cup now because the record in it is 2-1, having lost that first
Hmm.
game in it. So um, I'd love to be like in my head thinking like, oh, maybe there's a chance we can beat the Lakers because we're kind of fully healthy without Derek Jones Jr. again and stuff. Um, but I am worried. I'll predict the Clippers go 2-2. I'll say they beat the Lakers in that game just because I'm going to be optimistic. But that has taken basically every fiber of my being to be that optimistic about that Lakers game. Like I might have to go for a lie down after this. Like it's like Harry Potter with the wand doing the Avada Kedavra, and it's like sucking all the power out of him. But let's go optimistic. Let's say the Clippers will win. What are you thinking, James?
I think I'm going to join you on that. I had 2-2 in my head as well. I've had my predictions sort of. I'm a bit more reserved in my predictions, let's say, based on how the Clippers have been playing this year. So I think I'm going to go 2-2. I think it's. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Hornets and Lakers is the wins they get. Because if I want a win out of any of these, it's going to be Lakers, and I'm hoping, like you, that Kawhi is back for this game. Hopefully, that minimal minutes restriction as well. And we can get like, yeah, I'm hoping that could be like the win that like just starts like a really good streak for the Clippers and brings some of that like feel good back to Intuit Dome when they've got like a couple games after that, which I think are more than winnable. So um, please, I want that to be the catalyst. And like, I completely missed that was an NBA Cup game as well. So that would be like a brilliant one to like even like improve our chances of doing better. Because I think in the next pod will be forward looking to the Grizzlies, and I think that's a winnable game right now based on how they're playing. So like, Clippers could be 4-1 in the NBA Cup, but like end of next weekend, which could be like really really interesting. So really, really hoping like we're going to get that first win of the season against the Lakers. And yeah, we'll obviously be back with you next Wednesday. Really all hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to tune in to Playback TV with us on Sunday. Again, hoping it's not going to be a blowout and can be a close one. That's going to be fun for us. But yeah, any final thoughts, Josh, before we wrap this one up?
No, I just want to apologise to the Clippers because I got their NBA Cup record wrong. In my head, we lost the first game, but they've only played two. It was the Pelicans they beat in that first game, so 2-0. I'm saying that the Clippers go undefeated in the NBA Cup. There's my really realistic prediction, James. My really optimistic one. I mean, definitely not realistic.
You're going to
Um,
Vegas.
yeah, we're going to Vegas. We're doing it. Me and James will be there. Just smashing the casino tables because we probably won't have a flight home. So we'll be needing the casinos to pay for it, and hopefully the
Yeah.
Clippers come home with is it 500K they get each player or something. So hopefully they're coming home with some big checks as well. Yeah, I mean you've kind of got to laugh at this Clippers season so far, or you'll cry. But whatever happens, laughing, crying, me and James will be here to analyze it. We'll be on playback TV for the Cavs game on Sunday to analyze that as well. So we'll try and make the most of it, won't we, James?
Absolutely. Just on what you were saying there, that the NBA and Vegas is not a good marriage right now, given all the gambling things that are going on. So yeah, I'm a bit worried of giving some of the Clippers players 500K like that. I don't want to see any shenanigans that's going to come back. Like there's enough right now. We've got
Yeah,
enough. So
you
like,
don't have to you
please
don't have
let's
to worry about
behave.
James Harden in the casinos necessarily. It's just the other places that
Other
Vegas has.
areas of Vegas, yes. Yeah, but I would love to be there. So fingers crossed we can make that an unbeaten NBA group stage. That'd be fantastic. And it'd be so Clippers to have this start and then go and win the NBA Cup. Like I'm here for it. Like let's do it. Cool. Yeah, let's wrap this one up. It's been good to chop it up with you as always, Josh. I think a better week and a sign of maybe like an upwards trajectory. So I'm hoping we're back next week and there's a lot more positives out of these next few games. Yeah, as always, I've been James Warner, your host of View for the Clipper podcast, joined by Josh, and go Clips go.